Hi friends, this is just a video on how to use the UV gradient maker. Ruh-roh. Okay, so now we're logged into the UV gradient maker. I will show you kind of the key items about it. We have our gradient tones, and then we have a series of images that are categorized. For our gradient tones, you can see here we have ultra, ultraviolet, and U-violet. U-violet just means the pink in the U of ultra and then the violet color. So if you look at this one, you'll see here's the violet color, like the navy blue, and then here's our pink, and this is just a gradient between those two. If we look at ultraviolet color, this is ultra, reverse it, this is ultra, and then violet. So there's actually three colors in this if you look at it. 1, 2, 3, and this can be moved back and forth depending on what the photo looks like if you want to tweak it and play with it, but don't worry about that. Ultra color, put this in here, but we don't really need it because we don't really use it very much, and you'll see when I start playing with images and showing the duotone effect using this one that it's not going to look as good as these other two. And the other two are the ones that we used on the site. So for frequently used images, which this one was not, I put them all in here. So we can use this one as an example. This is like our homepage image, right? And then if I show this, it will give me that, the ultra colors from the U to the A. And this doesn't look very good. So I would reverse it, or I would deselect reversing it. And then I would double click on this and I would kind of move this around as needed to get the coloring that I wanted in order to have it show better. But remember, when you do that, it's going to change this. So if you save it, the gradient maker, when you're done, then you're essentially saving these changes that you're using just to tweak the thing. So I would almost never save this file. If you end up creating an asset that you export, save it somewhere else. So like I said, I put this one in here, but we're not going to typically use it. For this one, you can see reversing it gets it to look pretty much exactly the way that our website looks. Now let's say this looks a little lighter than I wanted it to, then I can sharpen the contrast here and it'll make it a little darker and give it kind of like that sharper, edgier look, as opposed to being a little washed out here. Some images will look better this way, and then some will look better with this setting turned on. I wanted to keep this simple and not have a bunch of settings to click on and off, so everyone can kind of do the images and do them well, or at least consistently. So then let's move on to the other one. This one's kind of my favorite. This is like the U to the violet, and I like the way that this one looks, and it's still cohesive with our visual identity because it still uses the two main colors and the palette between them for like the two of the three main colors that we have within the logo. So as you can see, when you click on a different image, the images look way different depending on which one of these you're using. So this looks kind of good or I think it does. So if I look at just this, now I'm at a point where I can say, okay, I just want to export this image. You can see that in the other frequently used ones that there's a lot in here. Like this is kind of like a trippy labyrinth style one. Might be appropriate for like a certain type of blog post or certain type of blog post topic. I don't know. It also looks a little washed out, so I would sharpen the contrast on it. And I think that looks like a little bit brighter, a little bit more neon-y. And so at this point, I can say, okay, we're here. And then I go to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG, or export as however I want to, or save for web. However you typically export your assets on Photoshop is going to work just fine. So that's it. That's how you make the gradient thing. If you want to poke around on the image assets that we have, there are a lot. If you look at the partial buildings, you can see that there are just like so many of these, and a lot of them are smart objects, meaning that you can stretch them out to be full size. But there are just like so many that can be used. So let's say we take this one and we like this one or we want to use it, but you can see that it's pretty hard to see what's going on here. go back up to this gradient tone, click on it, and then now I can kind of make it a little bit darker. Or I can say, hey, maybe this would look better reversed. And it kind of does. And then after reversing it, I can play with this a little bit more, lightening it up, whatever, darkening it. And I can turn off sharpen contrast to make it look a little bit lighter. So there's like all sorts of stuff you can do. And then if I want to just export this one, since it's a smart object, I can just make it as big as I want it to be. Like maybe take this, sample this background color here and make the full background that, so that it's just this like one thing standing in a blue sea. So to do that, you probably know how to do all this, but to do that I would take this and I would put it below everything. And then I would hide all these other images by pulling the image that I'm using out. So like this image here, I would pull it out of the partial buildings because there's so many that are selected, and hide it. And then I would move it down here so that it looks like it's, you know, stuck in the bottom. And I would take that, just make another one, I don't know where it went. Put this here, send it to the back. Go here, take a sample of the color. Where's the sample? Here's the eyedropper. Click there. Now I have my eyedrop color. Go over here, use my fill. And voila, it worked totally well. I have no idea what I just did. All right, let's see. So I'm going here, I'm getting an actual sample of the actual color of the image. Then I'm going to my background. I'm making that the color, so now it looks like this. And then if I want to, I can take these two and I can merge them, but I don't need to. Sharpen the contrast a little bit so you can see a little more, and then I can pick my color. So now this looks pretty neat. I'm going to export it. Export, quick export as PNG. Just keep it here as the UV gradient example. When you do a quick export as PNG, it makes it really large. So why don't we also, just for the sake of it, do a save for web. This will give you a bunch of different options. You select JPEG. Then you can do, you know, like your medium quality, maybe like 50 or 60 typically looks good for something like this. You can shrink your image size, especially if it's web, down to like 1400 typically, even less sometimes if it's not going to be a full width image. And then I'm going to save it. And then I'll use that same name, gradient example.jpg. Save. So now, when I look at my UV here, you can see that my .png file is almost 1 megabyte. And then you can see that my JPEG example is 42 KB, which will be like lightning fast to load on a website. And if I open it, you can see that at like a good size, it looks pretty good. If I open the PNG one, you can see that maybe it's a little bit crispier, but not much. So totally not worth having those like really big file sizes that are going to, you know, if there's even just one of those on a web page, it could double the size of the web page and the time that it takes to load it. So that's it. That's how you export really cool UV style image assets, keep things consistent, and have just like a super badass, powerful visual identity. Okay, bye.